है प्रार्थना गुरुदेव से, ये स्वर्ग संसार हो, अति उच्चतम जीवन बने, परमार्थमय व्यवहार हो। ना हम रहे अपने लिए, हमको सभी से गर्व है, गुरुदेव ये आशीष दे, जो सोचने का फर्ज है। हम हो पुजारी तन के, गुरुदेव के आदेश के, सच प्रेम के नित नेम के, सधर्म के सत्कर्म के, ऊंची है झूठी राह की, अन्याय की अभिमान की, सेवा करने को दास की, परवाह नहीं हो जान की। छोटे न हो हम बुद्धि से, हो विश्वमय से ईश्वर, हो राममय और कृष्णमय, जगदेव में जगदीशमय, हर इंद्रियों पर ताव कर, हम वीर हो अति वीर हो, उज्ज्वल रहे सर से सदा, निज धर्म रत गंभीर हो, अति शुद्ध हो आचार से, तन मन हमारा सर्वदा, आध्यात्म की शक्ति हमें पल भी नहीं करके जुदा, इस अमर आत्मा में हर श्वास भर में दम रहे, डर मौत भी आ गई, सुख दुख हमसे कम रहे।
Just wait for 1 minute for this to run, because I think there are only how many participants? 30 participants so far. Let's wait for another 1 minute and I think we can start.
Okay. A fine is a tax for doing something wrong, and a tax is a fine for doing something right. Hi everyone, we are going to have a scientific class on the topic Equalization Levy. So here I am unveiling the law of Equalization Levy, a deep dive into the Equalization Levy. We'll move further. CBDT, the apex authority of India for the administration of direct taxes, by recognizing the increase in the significance of e-commerce transactions, constituted a committee to examine the taxation issues related to e-commerce in India. The committee submitted its report in February 2016. The committee's report heavily relied on the OECD's Action 1 report, which was released as a part of Base Erosion Profit Sharing project. OECD is an organization for economic cooperation and development, which recommended 15 action plans as a part of BEPS, Base Erosion and Profit Shifting. And one of the action plan was Action Plan 1. Action Plan 1 includes three options for the purpose of e-commerce transactions. One is equalization levy, second is withholding tax on digital transactions, and third is significant economic presence. And among the three options suggested in Action 1 plan, equalization levy was considered to be the best alternative. Equalization levy was introduced with the intention of taxing the digital transactions, that is, the income accruing to foreign e-commerce companies from India. If any person sitting in India pay consideration to the foreign companies on e-commerce transaction, the equalization levy will be attractive. Enactment of equalization levy in India. Equalization levy was introduced in the Finance Act 2016. Introduced equalization levy at the rate of 6% with effect from June 1, 2016, which came under the notification of 37 of 2016, dated May 27, 2016, on online advertisement, provision of advertising space, and other related services. Equalization levy tax is famously known as Google tax, and it was enacted as a separate chapter, that is chapter number 8 in Finance Act 2016, and not forming a part of Income Tax 1961. Its scope was enhanced in 2020, and it is introduced at the rate of 2% on e-commerce transactions with effect from 1st April 2020. The provision was not the part of provisions of the Finance Bill 2020 when the Finance Minister introduced it on February 1, 2020. Rather, it was included on March 23, 2020 when it was approved by the lower house of the Parliament.
So, why do you think that equalization levy was introduced? Come back to the equalization levy क्यों आया? You're asking कि taxability इसमें क्या होती है?
इस ट्रांजेक्शन पे टैक्स लगता है.
It's e-commerce transactions, online transactions के ऊपर tax लगता है. Equalization levy क्यों लाए हो? Why did the Indian government thought of bringing equalization levy under the act?
इलेक्ट्रॉनिकली ऑनलाइन जो बिजनेस करते थे उनकी इनकम के ऊपर टैक्स नहीं लगता है.
बट इनकम टैक्स है ना, उसको तो टैक्स करनी पड़ेगी. इनकम टैक्स से कैसे बाहर निकल रहे हैं?
जैसे आउट ऑफ इंडिया से इंडिया में बिजनेस कर रहे हैं इलेक्ट्रॉनिकली, तो आउट ऑफ इंडिया
to control trade. Of course, that was a secondary motive. The prime motive was to tax these kind of transactions. See, the fundamental thought process of the government to bring an equalization levy law was, what happens is that, I'll give you a live example. For example, Amazon.com or Alibaba.com. These are all US-based or China-based e-commerce giants. And these giants were selling goods. They were selling goods in India as well. I can order goods from Alibaba.com by using the Alibaba app. Same I can do with Amazon.com as well. So when they are selling the goods, so who is buying the goods? I am buying the goods. Where I'm sitting? I'm sitting in India. But India is not getting tax on that transaction. Why? India was not getting tax on the transaction because the income that they are earning by way of either facilitation fee, because these are just marketplace aggregators. They don't sell goods because sellers is someone else. They are aggregators. So whatever income that they were earning pursuant to this transaction was not, Indian government was not having the right to tax. They were not having a right to tax it because these entities used to say that I don't have a business connection in India under Section 9. I don't have a business connection. I don't have a permanent establishment under the treaty. This is a business income. In the absence of a permanent establishment or a business connection with India, I'm not able to pay tax in India. And this is how they were not paying the taxes on the income that they were earning because of this online transactions. And the online phase developed, I think from 2012, it has developed a lot. And most of the transactions are now these days online. And therefore, the government thought that how do we tax it? So the government introduced in 2016 equalization levy. But in 2016, the equalization levy that was introduced, that was by way of a 6% withholding, as you can see. It was a 6% withholding that came in from 1st June 2016 on online advertisement or provision of advertising space or other related services. Still, the government was not taxing the online transactions, right? Because 6% levy was on only on online advertisement or online advertisement space or related services. Now, what do you mean by this online advertisement? So, for example, like Google. Google is a very common example because Google is into advertisement business. They advertise a lot on Google. Whenever you open a website, Google, some ads pop up. And Google used to collect a fee for showing that ad on their web engine. Now, who is paying that fee? Fee is being paid by assume an Indian resident. So, the 2016 law said that whenever an Indian person or a non-resident who is having a PE in India is paying any advertising fee, online advertising fee to any non-resident, to any person rather, word used by any person, then that person has to do a withholding of 6%. Okay, I will do a withholding of 6%. $100 का बिल आया, $6 मैंने काटा, 94 I remit, 6 I remit to the government of India. So government got 6% revenue out of it. Right? Now, then even after that, you need to think that why in 2020 an amendment came in on this. The amendment again came in 2020 to widen the tax net and the scope of equalization levy. The reason for that was in the 2020 Act, that the 2020 brought in these provisions, but they were brought in into the Finance Act 2016 only. And it said that the non-resident e-commerce operator who is engaged into online sale of goods or online rendering of services has to pay 2% as equalization levy tax to Indian government. In other words, it was like 2% tax. अगर आपको इंडिया के साथ बिजनेस करना है तो 2% टैक्स आपको इंडिया में देना पड़ेगा. It is not like TDS. It is a liability on the non-resident. Non-resident को 2% जमा करवाना है. उसको for example $100 का जो बिल था, $100 की उसको consideration मिला, right? He's a e-commerce operator and e-commerce supplier of goods and services भी होगा. उसको $100 की receipt हुई. On that $100, he will have to pay $2 as tax to the government of India. It's not a withholding. Under the withholding, the Indian payer will do a withholding. So the first levy of 2016, that was 6%, was introduced by way of a withholding. But the 2% levy is not a withholding. It is kind of the e-commerce operator, the non-resident, has to deposit out of its own pocket to the government of India कि ये 2% tax है for doing business with India. Right? ये इसका fundamental basis है to bring in equalization levy and expand the scope by Finance Act 2020. Like I said, these transactions were not getting taxed earlier, and in order to tax all these transactions, this was all important. Another important thing is that if you read the second bullet of the Finance Act 2020, it says that this provision was not part of the original Finance Bill 2020. In the last 5, 6 years, 7 years, I think the Finance Bill has been started introducing with effect from 1st of February 2020. Right? 1st February 2020 Finance Bill आता है. उसके अंदर ये provisions नहीं थे. When the Finance Bill was getting concluded to become Finance Act during the course of proceedings in the Parliament, it was introduced on March 23, 2020. So it was such a big levy that was getting that was impacting most of the non-residents, right? It was not introduced in the original finance bill that was introduced on 1st of February 2020, and a lot of hue and cry was made. It's such a big levy that is impacting the entire world. And India is, of course, a growing economy. A lot of non-residents are investing into India. Earning profits from Indian people. Why? Because India has a large population base. If you compare the population base of European countries with India, 30 European countries is equal to one India, right? And therefore, for them, India is a very big market, and everyone is doing it. And this is a tax on non-resident, right? And still they got it at 23rd of March 2020, and there was a lot of hue and cry that why such a levy which is being introduced at this last minute entry, or kind of a backdoor entry, why it was not introduced or laid down in the parliament on 1st February 2020. But nevertheless, all that happened. The law got introduced. The law got expanded. There was introduction till 2016 में हो गया था Finance Act 2016 के अंदर. उसका expansion हुआ 2020 के finance bill से. And now these are the two precise, kind of levies under equalization levy that is there. And I also think that equalization levy is there in your international tax
In CA
final curriculum, right? So whatever you learn, you will find all those things in there as well. Right? So we can go to the next slide, and then first we'll understand that what Finance Act 2016, the 6% levy was there, and then what is this 2% levy on the e-commerce operators. Right?
So yeah, if we move further, then there is explanation of the sections of the Finance Act 2016, extent, commencement and application. Section 163 of Finance Act 2016. This chapter extends to the whole of India except the state of Jammu and Kashmir. It shall come into force on such date as the central government made by notification in the official gazette upon. It shall apply to consideration received or receivable for specified services provided on or after the commencement of this chapter, and for e-commerce supply or services made or provided or facilitated on or after the first day of April 2020. This section will be applicable after the April 2020. The consideration received or receivable for specified services and for e-commerce supply or services shall not include the consideration which are taxable as royalty or fees for technical services in India under the Income Tax Act, read with the agreement notified by the central government under Section 90 or Section 98 of the said Act. If the consideration is receivable or received by way of royalty or fees, then it will not attract the equalization levy. Payments that are taxable as royalty or FTS under the Act would not attract equalization levy at the rate of 2%.
You understood what is the meaning of this? अगर रॉयल्टी और एफटीएस की तरह टैक्स होएगा तो उसके ऊपर इक्वलाइजेशन लेवी नहीं लगेगा. इसका मतलब ये है. क्यों? कि रॉयल्टी एफटीएस is already getting taxed at the rate of minimum 10%. 195 से हम जाते हैं. 195 सेक्शन is the section जिसके अंदर withholding होती है. But जो रॉयल्टी एफटीएस का टैक्सेबिलिटी सेक्शन है वो है सेक्शन 115A. और उसके अंदर the rate on royalty and FTS income that was being owned by non-resident up to 31st of March 23 was 10%. With effect from 1st April 23, the rate has been increased to 20%. This is an amendment that came in the last 10 days of March when the Finance Bill 2023 was getting passed in the Parliament. This was again a big change that you should remember that the royalty FTS rates under the domestic law is now 20%, and therefore you have to visit the DTAA rates to see that what is the rate which is there in the DTAA. And ultimately, इसका मतलब ये कि अगर एक बार कोई लेवी के ऊपर या एक ट्रांजैक्शन के ऊपर वो रॉयल्टी एंड एफटीएस की तरह कैटेगराइज होके अगर इंडियन गवर्नमेंट को उसके ऊपर टैक्स मिल गया है, then that transaction will not again be liable for equalization levy. This was the intent, because of which this provision was inserted.
Further, as per the provisions of Income Tax Act 1961, any income arises from specified services or e-commerce supply or services to non-residents which are chargeable to equalization levy other than those chargeable to tax as royalty or FTS is exempt under the provisions of section 10 clause 15.
This would just mean that if a transaction, has been levied equalization levy, the transaction के ऊपर अगर equal लग गया है, तो फिर income tax बोलता है कि we will consider that income that is arising from that transaction as exempt under section 10 clause 15. Both are mutually exclusive. So the income tax levy और the equalization levy are both mutually exclusive. ऐसे नहीं कि mutually inclusive levies है कि एक ही transaction के ऊपर आप income tax भी लगा दो, एक ही transaction के ऊपर equal भी लगा दो. Either of the two लगेगा. अगर equal लग गया तो income tax बोल देता है कि वो exempt है, और अगर income tax लग गया तो equal नहीं लगेगा. लेकिन ये कैसे डिटरमाइन होगा कि क्या उस ट्रांजैक्शन के ऊपर equal लगेगा या income tax लगेगा? इसके मतलब मोरलेस ये राइट बिकॉज़ इनकम टैक्स को हैव फर्स्ट आप चेक करेंगे कि उसके ऊपर इनकम टैक्स लगता है या वो रॉयल्टी या एफटीएस के नेचर का है. अगर वो रॉयल्टी एफटीएस के नेचर का है तो 10% या जो भी रेट है वो टैक्स की वो पे करो. इंडियन गवर्नमेंट वुड ऑफ कोर्स वांट अ लार्जर शेयर ऑफ द टैक्स rather than 2%. So if a transaction is liable for a higher rate of tax under the income tax act and it's in the nature of kind royalty एफटीएस ही होता है मेनली जो इनकम्स होती है नॉन रेजिडेंट्स की मेनली, तो उसके ऊपर सबसे पहले इनकम टैक्स एक्ट लगेगा जिसके ऊपर इंडियन गवर्नमेंट वुड गेट अ हायर रेट ऑफ टैक्स. एंड इफ it is not getting charged under the income tax law because of any exemption, exception, treaty benefit, then EQL also you have to test. और अगर EQL की conditions parameters वो met हो गए जो अभी अपन डिस्कस करेंगे, then उसके ऊपर tax EQL करेंगे.
Further, if consideration paid or payable by an assessee to a non-resident for a specified service on which equalization levy is deductible under the provision of Chapter 8 of the Finance Act 2016, and such levy has not been deducted, or if deducted, it is not being paid on or before the due date specified in the section 139 clause 1. If the consideration is not being deducted, or if deducted is not being paid to till the due date, then it will be disallowed under section 40. In such case, the 100% consideration is to be disallowed and will be allowed as a deduction only when it is actually deducted or paid in subsequent financial year.
Similar section you have under here. Which section? Yeah. Let me ask someone who is online. So I want to call someone, then how do I call him? ऐसे नाम देख के just call. So which section is there under the Income Tax Act which says that there has to be a disallowance of an expenditure if TDS is not deducted? 48(1) and 48(1). 48(1) applies where a payment is being made to a non-resident and the TDS is not deducted in 48(1). 48(1) is for 30% of the expenses if the payment is being made to a resident. Then 48(1) resident को होगा, 48(1) is for equalization levy. जो कहता है कि अगर equalization levy डिडक्ट करना था आपको और आपने नहीं किया तो उस एक्सपेंस का डिडक्शन नहीं मिलेगा. उस एक्सपेंस का डिडक्शन उस साल में मिलेगा जिस साल में आपने उसको डिडक्ट करके जमा करा दिया. दिस इज व्हाट.
Now we'll come to the applicability of equalization levy. Section 165 of Finance Act 2016. Charge of equalization levy on specified service. Equalization levy at the rate of 6% applicable if payment for specified services received or receivable by non-resident from a person resident in India and carrying on the business or profession, or a non-resident having permanent establishment in India. If a person resident in India or carrying on the business or profession in India, or a non-resident having permanent establishment in India provides consideration to the non-resident who does not have the permanent establishment in India, then equalization levy will be attracted at the rate of 6%. There is a note, equalization levy will not be applicable if aggregate amount received by the non-resident from payer is up to rupees 1 lakh in previous year, or where non-resident has a permanent establishment in India and the service is effectively connected to the permanent establishment, or where the payment for the specified service by the person resident in India or the permanent establishment in India is not for the purpose of carrying out the business or the profession. If it is for personal purpose, then equalization levy will not be attractive.
You understood this is like a mother that why 6% levy. 6% levy simply says that it's a payment on specified services, specified receipt or receivable by a non-resident from a resident. A resident has to make a payment, or a non-resident who is having a PA in India. And there's a threshold of 1 lakh rupees if the payment which is being made by a resident to non-resident does not exceed a sum of 1 lakh. Then EQL is not attractive. It is applicable only under a business profession activity. ऐसा नहीं कि सब transactions के ऊपर personal के लिए भी अगर आप कोई personal advertisement कर रहे हो and you're not in a state of business or profession, तो ऐसे नहीं उसके ऊपर लग रहा है. It's where carrying on business or profession.
Career explanation of few terms. Equalization levy means a tax leviable on consideration received or receivable for any specified service under the provisions of this chapter. Specified service means online advertisement, any other facility or service for the purpose of online advertisement, any provision for digital advertising space, or any other services notified by the government. So these are the 4 activities which comes under the specified services. Permanent establishment includes a fixed place of business to which the business of the enterprise is wholly or partly carried on.
So if you look into this box, what is the common goal? Online advertisement, again advertisement, and any other service notified by the government. तो आपको कुछ notification आया नहीं है. तो तीनों के अंदर क्या है कि advertisement होना है. तो कहीं ना कहीं अगर आप online advertisement कर रहे हो, उससे related services जारी है, कोई digital advertisement के लिए आपको consideration मिल रहा है एक non-resident को, तो उसको पेमेंट करते समय the Indian payer has to ensure that 6% की withholding tax होए. So whenever you go on audits and you see कि ऐसे कुछ advertisement के bills है, expenses है, and if it is a non-resident जिसको pay किया जा रहा है, just check whether that transaction has been subjected to 6% withholding tax or not, which is in the form of EQL.
Now here is the case study. If a company called as TBWA, which is a non-resident and is not having a permanent establishment in India, provides advertisement services to the Indian resident or any non-resident having the PE in India worth rupees 5 lakh. An Indian resident and the non-resident having the PE in India will be liable to pay the consideration after deducting the 6% of equalization levy. And this means that it will pay rupees 4,70,000 to the TBWA and rupees 30,000 to the central government. There is a case law, IP18, no equalization levy on Google Ads payment where advertisers or the target audience is overseas. Jaipur IP18 versus Sri Prakash Chandra Mishra. Here are the facts. Assessee individual, service provider of online advertisement, digital marketing, and web designing for consultancy charges made payment of rupees 8.89 crores to Google Singapore, which does not have a PE in India for AdWords. Revenue held that the payment made for digital advertisement fell within the ambit of Section 165 Clause 1 of Finance Act 2016 and did not attract the exceptions of Section 165 Clause 2. A 1B. It was observed by the CIB that the assessee acted as a conduit for his foreign clients, where the target audience was also situated abroad, and the India was only the jurisdiction for fund transfer for this transaction, and thus held that assessee was not liable to charge equalization levy, as the service provider and the one who is paying the consideration are both situated in abroad. CIT observed that the statutory requirement for service recipient to be an Indian resident with business or profession in India or non-resident having PE in India were not satisfied in this case at hand. The panel decision to be taken by ITAB holds that the equalization levy does not get attracted in the present case, since the intention of levy is the targeted audience and party paying for the online advertisement, who is in the present case have no relation with India.
So come to the main charging section 165 के ऊपर जहाँ पे section detail है इसका. If you again read this section, what does this section says? Equalization levy at the rate of 6% applicable if payment for specified services receivable by a non-resident from a person resident in India and carrying on business or profession. Correct? इसमें आगे नहीं लिखा and carrying on business and profession in India, right? But the Jaipur ITAT interpreted it that it has to be like carrying on business and profession in India. When the payment is being made and if the advertisement is getting displayed not in India, outside India, maybe in Singapore or Australia, the targeted audience is not situated in India, then kind of that business or profession an argument can be taken that it is not, the payment is not being made for the business that is being carried out in India. It's for the business outside India and therefore not liable for equal. Plus there is the exceptions that equal is not applicable where the payment does not exceed 1 lakh. Second, the NR has a PA in India. And third, where the payment for the service by a person resident in India is not for the purpose of carrying out business or profession in India. So this payment was for kind of a payment that was not for the purpose of carrying out business or profession in India, because both the targeted audience as well as the service recipient as well as the service giver recipient of something जो render कर रहा था उस दोनों ही out थे, and therefore the tribunal held that equal इसके अंदर नहीं लगेगा, extra territorial nexus के arguments को कहते हुए इसके ऊपर equal के मना किया था. So this is by way of a 6% report. Now question to you all, what will happen if the foreign vendor says कि I'm not bearing this 6% levy? This is your India tax, no? So why do I bear that 6% and the agreement says that it's a gross up contract? Then what will happen? Correct? इसमें bear करना पड़ेगा. कैसे calculation होगी?
पेमेंट तो ग्रॉस पे करेंगे.
So for example $100 का बिल आया, उसके ऊपर अगर जनरल लेते तो 6% है,
मना कर दिया कि नहीं,
उसको तो 6% ही, उसको तो पूरा $100 ही चाहिए.
उसको पेमेंट तो $100 का ही 6% है, 6
मतलब 100 के ऊपर $6 would be borne by the Indian resident. हाँ,
टोटल ग्रॉस 106 जाएगा.
See, इसकी कैलकुलेशन कैसे होगी? और ये इनकम टैक्स एक्ट में भी एक प्रोविजन है which is I think the section is 195A or 196A है शायद, ग्रॉसिंग अप का एक सेक्शन है. वो ग्रॉसिंग अप के सेक्शन के अंदर क्या कहते हैं कि if the arrangement with the party is such that the foreign payer or the recipient has to collect the amount net of taxes, that means $100 का बिल है तो उसको $100 ही चाहिए. So this 100 represents 94. Then what is 100? So अगर इसकी कैलकुलेशन करेंगे 100 divided by 94 into 100, तो ये कुछ वैल्यू निकल के आएगी 106 point something निकल के आएगी. If you do the calculation, it will be 100 divided by 94 into 100. It comes to 106.38. इस 106.38 के ऊपर 6% का अगर मैं withholding लगाऊंगा तो आएगा 6.38. जब 106.38 में 6.38 माइनस होगा तो नेट क्या फिगर आया 100. ये 100 का फिगर गया वहाँ पे and 6.38 गया गवर्नमेंट को, which is kind of borne by the Indian payer.
तो मतलब 6.8 या 100 पे लगाएं 6% तो 6 आएगा.
इनकरेक्ट कैलकुलेशन है ना. और तो ये जो मैकेनिक्स है, ये इक्वलाइजेशन लेवी आया है फाइनेंस एक्ट से, इट्स नॉट इन द इनकम टैक्स एक्ट, राइट? तो ये जो मैकेनिक्स है रिवर्स कैलकुलेशन करने की, ये फाइनेंस एक्ट के अंदर कोई भी सेक्शन तो 163 से लेके आगे जितने भी 171 की सेक्शन है उसके अंदर नहीं दी गई. बट एक गाइडेंस अवेलेबल है इनकम टैक्स एक्ट के अंदर कि ऐसे आपको कैलकुलेट करना है. दिस इज दैट गाइडेंस आई एम टेलिंग यू कि रिवर्स मैकेनिज्म करते हुए, रिवर्स कैलकुलेशन करते हुए यू हैव टू कंप्यूट द इक्वल अमाउंट. दिस इज ऑल. या राइट, मतलब 6 वर्सेस 6.38 ये तो इतना सा है. अगर ये करोड़ में हो तो फिर बहुत बड़ा फर्क हो जाता है. 6 करोड़ वर्सेस 6.38 करोड़, देयर इज अ डिफरेंस ऑफ 38 lakhs, राइट? बट द मैकेनिक्स वुड बी लाइक दिस वन.
Next section is the section 165A of Finance Act 2016, charge of equalization levy on e-commerce supply or services. On or after 1st April 2020, equalization levy at the rate of 2% or receivable by an e-commerce operator from e-commerce supply or services made or provided or facilitated by it to a person resident in India or to a non-resident in the specified circumstances which are further explained, or to a person who buys such goods or services or both using the IP address located in India. So these are the three persons to whom the services are provided by the e-commerce operator. Exception to this, EL will not be applicable if e-commerce operator making or providing or facilitating e-commerce supply or service has a PC in India and the service is effectively connected to the PC. The equalization levy is leviable under section 165. If the equalization levy is levied under 165, then it will not be attracted under section 165A. Sales, turnover or gross receipts, as the case may be, of the e-commerce operator from the e-commerce supplier services made or provided or facility is less than rupees 2 crore during the previous year. So these are the three exceptions to the section. Definitions of the key terms or phrases. Specified circumstances for the purpose of this section means sale of advertisement which targets a customer who is resident in India or a customer who accesses the advertisement to IP address located in India, and sale of data collected from a person who is resident in India or from a person who uses IP address located in India. E-commerce operator means a non-resident who owns, operates, or manages digital or electronic facility or platform for online sale of goods or online provision of services or both. E-commerce supplier services means online sale of goods owned by the e-commerce operator or online provision of services provided by the e-commerce operator or online sale of goods or provision of services or both facilitated by the e-commerce operator or any combination of activities listed in clause 1st, 2nd and 3rd.
So after अपन 165 section पढ़ रहे थे, ये 165A. So this is the 2% rate, and it started that levy became applicable from 1st of June 2016. This is applicable from 1st April 2020. What does it say? That equalization levy at the rate of 2% applicable on consideration received or receivable by an e-commerce operator from e-commerce supplier services made, provided or facilitated by it. So, by it to a person resident in India. केवल जी first claim पढ़ो तो इसका मतलब ये है कि that it has to it's a levy on non-resident, right? E-commerce operator because उससे आपसे define किया हुआ है from e-commerce supplier services. This is the second phrase on where the consideration which is received or it's receivable from a person who is a resident in India. तो NR to R का transaction यहाँ cover हो गया. What about NR to NR का transaction? क्या NR to NR का transaction भी cover हो सकता है यहाँ पे? उसमें second level क्या है? To NR in specified circumstances, वो NR to NR भी cover कर सकता है. और third level में क्या होता है? To a person who buys such goods or services of both using IP address located in India. इसमें अब person लिखा हुआ है. इसमें R भी आ सकता है, इसमें NR भी आ सकता है. हाँ, मतलब ओपन एंडेड है कि थर्ड लेवल के अंदर आर एन आर दोनों आ सकता है, बट इसमें क्या लिखा है? हु बाइज सच गुड्स और सर्विसेज यूजिंग आईपी एड्रेस व्हिच इज लोकेटेड इन इंडिया. सो फॉर एग्जांपल लाइक मैं बैठा हूं यूएस के अंदर, मैं यूएस में बैठा हूं, बट आई हैव अ वीपीएन एंड वीपीएन इज कनेक्टेड टू इंडिया नेटवर्क. सो द आईपी एड्रेस इज ऑफ इंडिया. आईपी एड्रेस तो इंडिया का है और उस वीपीएन को यूज करके मैं गुड खरीद रहा हूं. तो जो पैसा मिल रहा है उस नॉन रेजिडेंट सप्लायर को, उसके ऊपर उसको 2% टैक्स पे करना है. अब इंडियन गवर्नमेंट को कैसे पता चलेगा कि आईपी एड्रेस इंडिया का है कहाँ का है? तो इन्होंने लॉ तो लिख दिया, लेकिन पता कैसे चलेगा? कोई आईपी एड्रेस की ट्रैकिंग थोड़ी ना होती है आज कहीं पे, राइट? इतने सारे आईपी एड्रेस हैं थ्रू आउट पैन इंडिया. सो ये प्रैक्टिकल चैलेंज लॉ है, बट इट्स अ लिटिल प्रैक्टिकली इतना पॉसिबल नहीं हो पाता to track all these things. फर्स्ट वाला केस तो ठीक है, 2% रेजिडेंट इन इंडिया, ये सब ठीक है. और इसके लिए 3 एक्सेप्शन है. एक एक्सेप्शन तो वही है कि the e-commerce operator is providing services has a P in India and it's effectively connected to a P, या फिर क्योंकि अगर P होगा तो इसका एक्सेप्शन इसलिए कि इनकम टैक्स एक्ट लग जाएगा उसके ऊपर, क्योंकि नेट बेसिस के ऊपर एज अ बिजनेस इनकम टैक्स हो जाता है, इसलिए वो एक्सेप्शन है। सेकंड है कि अगर वो 165 पे 6% लेवी के लिए टैक्स हो गया तो 2% लेवी में नहीं जाएगा। और तीसरा इसमें थ्रेशोल्ड है 2 करोड़, तो उसमें 1 लाख की थी, इसमें 2 करोड़ की थ्रेशोल्ड है। तो again it's a tax on a non-resident e-commerce operator from e-commerce suppliers services। अब ये जो फ्रेजेस है इस पूरे सेक्शन के अंदर, इसकी डेफिनेशन भी दी हुई है सेक्शन के अंदर, जो कि नेक्स्ट स्लाइड में है। स्पेसिफाइड सर्कमस्टेंसेस मींस, स्पेसिफाइड सर्कमस्टेंसेस वो एनआर टू एनआर ट्रांजैक्शन, और उसमें स्पेसिफाइड सर्कमस्टेंस के लिए क्या कहते हैं कि सेल ऑफ एडवर्टाइजमेंट विद टारगेट्स अ कस्टमर हु इज अ रेजिडेंट इन इंडिया located in India। तो सिमिलर लैंग्वेज है, एनआर टू एनआर के बीच में अगर कोई ट्रांजैक्शन हो रहा है तो उसके ऊपर इक्वल इंडियन गवर्नमेंट को देना चाहिए, अगर if it is advertisement which is targeting the Indian customer database या कोई डेटा किसी ने कलेक्ट किया from a resident India। So for example alibaba.com चाइना की है, alibaba.com ने डेटा कलेक्ट किया, पूरा कस्टमर डेटा कलेक्ट किया फ्रॉम फ्लिपकार्ट इंडिया, ठीक है, तो डेटा बेचा तो उसको कंसिडरेशन मिला है। सॉरी ये एनआर टू एनआर है ना, फ्रॉम अ पर्सन हु इज अ रेजिडेंट इन इंडिया।
डेटा वो डिस्प्ले करेंगे अपना अलीबाबा पे।
करेक्ट, तो ये पूरा जो डेटा डिस्प्ले करेंगे उसके लिए जो भी कंसिडरेशन आया उसके ऊपर 2% का चार्ज यहाँ पे मिलेगा। इट्स अ कंसिडरेशन रिसीव्ड और रिसीवेबल बाय अ नॉन रेजिडेंट फ्रॉम अनदर नॉन रेजिडेंट इन स्पेसिफिक। एनआर टू एनआर का ट्रांजैक्शन हो गया एक तरीके से। एक एनआर ने किसी दूसरे एनआर को डेटा सेल किया व्हिच इज रिलेटेड टू इंडिया एंड उसके लिए कुछ अगर पैसा चार्ज किया तो उसके जो भी उसकी रिसीट हुई है दूसरे एनआर की उसको 2% का लेवी देना है टू इंडियन गवर्नमेंट।
इनडायरेक्ट इनकम का सोर्स है वो है।
अरे कंट्रोल बहुत डिफिकल्ट है, मैं वही कह रहा हूँ, लॉ को लिख दिया क्या हो गया कंट्रोल, मैंने नहीं किया टैक्स। इंडियन गवर्नमेंट हाउ द इंडियन गवर्नमेंट कैन ट्रैक दिस आउट, मतलब टू माय नॉलेज तो नहीं है कि इंडियन गवर्नमेंट कैन ट्रैक ऑल दिस काइंड ऑफ थिंग या फिर आईपी एड्रेस लोकेटेड इन इंडिया, इट्स नॉट टू माय नॉलेज, बट स्टिल मतलब 0.1% कुछ ऐसी टेक्नोलॉजी है which we are not aware of, ये हो सकता है, but it's very difficult to say कि Indian government can track IP address location to check and all these
यही ज़्यादा से ये ट्रांजैक्शन दो है ना कि बीच में होगा, जैसे फेसबुक और गूगल के बीच में। इनको क्या पता कि कितने ट्रांजैक्शन हो रहे हैं, अभी रिवील कर रहा है।
करेक्ट, तो नहीं होता बेसिकली। ऐसे तो बहुत पूरी दुनिया की फॉरेन ट्रांजैक्शंस थोड़ी ना एनालाइज करते बैठेंगे कि इक्वल लगेगा या नहीं लगेगा। सो दे हैव गॉटन दिस लेवी बट इट्स डिफिकल्ट। मैं कह रहा हूँ इवन जो फर्स्ट लेवी है ऊपर वाले में ना, जो फर्स्ट लेवी 2% फ्रॉम अ पर्सन रेजिडेंट इन इंडिया, तो रेजिडेंट को तो पेमेंट कर दिया, मतलब रेजिडेंट ने तो जैसे ई कॉमर्स सप्लाई के ऊपर नॉन रेजिडेंट को कंसिडरेशन दे दिया। Amazon.com से यू हैव परचेज्ड अ लैपटॉप, .com is a website of US, you purchased a laptop using that website, उसने सेल कर दिया, उसको पैसा भी मिल गया। now if Amazon.com says यार गवर्नमेंट तो मेरे को पकड़ ही नहीं सकती, आई एम सिटिंग इन यूएस, हाउ कैन द गवर्नमेंट कैच मी, मैं नहीं दूंगा लेवी।
लाइबिलिटी भी तो
एनआर के ऊपर है, तो एनआर को कैसे पकड़ोगे भैया? तो ये प्रैक्टिकल चैलेंजेस है, बट हाँ these all companies are really very ethical and all these things, so अगर ये लॉ बनाया है तो to an extent I think they follow, they comply, they abide, because India's jurisdiction is a very big market for them and they 2% के चार्ज के लिए they don't want to be in bad risk, नहीं लेना चाहते be in bad notes and all those things। तो कहीं ना कहीं मेरे को ऐसा लगता है कि at least first वाला लिंक पे तो काफी लोग करते भी हैं। सेकंड थर्ड मैंने कभी देखा नहीं है कि स्पेसिफिक सर्कमस्टेंसेस के अंदर या आईपी एड्रेस लोकेटेड इन इंडिया से कोई कंसिडरेशन आ रहा है ना, तो उसके ऊपर इक्वल पे हो रहा है। एक्सेप्शन तो ठीक है, सबको फैंटेसी लगा, मतलब यू कैन से इट यार, मतलब इतना वाइड स्कोप बना दिया था जब ये लीवी आया था। द वर्ड्स आर सो वाइड, इवन द ई कॉमर्स सप्लाई और सर्विस का जो टर्म नीचे डिफाइन किया हुआ है, या फिर ई कॉमर्स ऑपरेटर का टर्म नीचे डिफाइन किया हुआ है, इतना वाइड है। कम टू द पेज एंड नाउ लेट्स सी manages digital or electronic facility on a platform for online sale of goods or online provision of services of both। मतलब क्या क्या नहीं कवर किया हुआ है, ओनरशिप भी कवर की हुई है, ऑपरेशन भी कवर किया हुआ है, मैनेजमेंट भी कवर किया हुआ है, किसका? डिजिटल इलेक्ट्रॉनिक फैसिलिटी या प्लेटफॉर्म का। तो कोई वेबसाइट, कोई मोबाइल एप्लीकेशन या कोई भी ऐसा पोर्टल जो कि डिजिटल हो, जो कि इंटरनेट से चलता हो, सब कुछ इसमें कवर हो। मैं तो कहूंगा कि मैं ईमेल के ऊपर गुड्स बेचता एक ई कॉमर्स ऑपरेटर है, वो ईमेल के ऊपर गुड्स बेच रहा है, उसको कोई पोर्टल नहीं है, कोई उसकी इलेक्ट्रॉनिक फैसिलिटी नहीं है, कोई प्लेटफॉर्म नहीं है, बट उसके पास इंडियन कस्टमर से एक रिक्वेजिशन आती है, वो ईमेल के ऊपर अप्लाई करता है और फिर कोरियर लगा देता है। तो क्या होगा, क्या वो भी कवर हो जाएगा इसके अंदर? हो सकता है, हो सकता है, बिकॉज मतलब ईमेल इज अ फैसिलिटी, इट्स अगेन इलेक्ट्रॉनिक फैसिलिटी। वो ओन ऑपरेट मैनेज, क्या वो ओन करता है उस ईमेल को, ऑपरेट करता है, मैनेज करता है? मैं कहूँगा वो मैनेज करता है अपने ईमेल बॉक्स को। ओनरशिप तो नहीं होगी ईमेल की, बिकॉज ईमेल की ओनरशिप हो सकता है गूगल के पास में, राइट? ऑपरेट भी नहीं करता, चेक तो वही करता है, मैनेज तो वही करता है सारा, तो होने को हो सकती है इसके अंदर। दैट मीन्स कि जस्ट इमेजिन द एम्बिट ऑफ दिस नेवी, ईच एंड एवरीथिंग अंडर द सन वुड गेट कवर्ड। इतनी बड़ा इसके अंदर ये नेवी को लेके आया है। देखो आई वाज सेइंग कि जब 1 फरवरी 2020 को बजट आया तब नहीं लेके आई, बट 23 मार्च को ये कंक्लूड हो रहा था बजट सेशन और ये एक्ट बनने वाला, तो तब ये जाके लेके आया। और इसलिए देखो एट दैट टाइम इन 2020 इन मार्च मंथ इट वाज लॉट ऑफ यू एंड क्राइम कि क्या लेके लिया है इंडिया, क्या लेके लिया है। यू फाइंड अ लॉट ऑफ आर्टिकल्स ऑन दिस इन द न्यूज़पेपर फॉर दिस। तो ई-कॉमर्स ऑपरेटर का मतलब ये है, ई-कॉमर्स सप्लायर सर्विसेज में क्या-क्या नहीं कवर होता है, मतलब सब कुछ है। ऑनलाइन सेल ऑफ गुड्स ओन बाय ई-कॉमर्स ऑपरेटर, अगर कोई सेल ऑफ गुड्स खुद ओ कर रहा है तो वो भी होगा, प्रोविजन ऑफ सर्विस है वो भी होगा, अगर फैसिलिटेट कर रहा है, भले ओनरशिप नहीं है, फैसिलिटेट कर रहा है तो भी होगा। एनी कॉम्बिनेशन ऑफ 1 2 3। फॉर एग्जांपल amazon.com है, वो तो फैसिलिटेटर ही है, तो गुड्स ओन नहीं करता, तो वो भी कवर है। अगर कोई डायरेक्टली वो ओन करके गुड्स बेच रहा है तो वो भी कवर्ड है। तो सब कुछ ही कवर हो गया एक तरीके से इसके अंदर।
So, for the purpose of this clause, online sale of goods and online provision of services shall include one or more of the following online items, namely acceptance of offer for sale, placing of purchase order, acceptance of the purchase order, payment of consideration, supply of goods or provision of services partly or fully. To the broader perspective, here are the terms which are explained in the e-commerce operator. The term owns refers to the ownership of said domain name. As regards the web portal, the owner is the person who owns the URL or the domain name. For example, the domain name Amazon.com is owned by the Amazon USA. The term operates or manages should cross a threshold of activities or rights almost akin to that of the owner or at least significant. Routine maintenance activities should not be covered. Digital platform. Based on a public domain search, digital platforms are online businesses that facilitate commercial interactions between at least two different groups, with one typically being supplier and other the customer. Digital platform may typically be accessed through any electronic tool for communication, such as desktop, mobile phones, social and email software, which generally covers the website and the social media. Electronic means of a device having or operating with components such as microchips and transistors that control and direct electric current. Facility generally refers to any digital platform, including websites, portals, mobiles, applications, or other similar means that allow the user to buy, sell, or offer goods or services online. The consideration received or receivable from e-commerce supplier or service shall include consideration for the sale of goods, irrespective of whether e-commerce operator owns the goods or not. So, however, it shall not include consideration for sale of such goods which are owned by a person resident in India or by a PE in India or a non-resident in India, if sale of such goods effectively connected with such PE. Consideration of provision of services irrespective of whether service is provided or facilitated by e-commerce operator. So, however, that shall not include consideration for provision of services which are provided by a person resident in India or by a PE in India of a non-resident in India. Provision of such services is effectively connected with such PE. Further moving to the slide, in each of the scenarios mentioned below, it is assumed that $100 is a consideration paid by an Indian customer for online sale of goods by an e-commerce operator. And $100 is the facilitation, $10 is the facilitation fees or listing fees called as a commission charged by the non-resident marketplace facilitating the online sale of goods. So $100 is the consideration paid by the Indian customer to the non-resident e-commerce operator, and $10 is the fees payable by the e-commerce by the foreign vendor to the marketplace entity, which is the e-commerce operator. So scenario 1, e-commerce operator, foreign vendor. E-commerce operator here qualified as a foreign vendor is selling its own goods or rendering services on its own account.
So before that, just explain कि foreign मतलब e-commerce operator इस example या scenario जो भी आ गए उसमें e-commerce operator foreign vendor भी हो सकता है, marketplace entity भी हो सकती है. Foreign vendor का मतलब ये है जो कि directly उस goods को own करता है, right? Someone who owns is the foreign vendor. Marketplace is like Amazon.com का जो भी पोर्टल है जिसके थ्रू बेचो, जिसके थ्रू फैसिलिटेट हो रहा है, वो उसका मतलब है मार्केटप्लेस. और तीसरा है कि वो मार्केटप्लेस जो एंटिटी है वो उसको सर्विस फैसिलिटेट करवाने के लिए फैसिलिटेशन फी चार्ज करेगी या लिस्टिंग फी चार्ज करती है. जैसे Amazon चार्जेस 25% और 30% एज इट्स लिस्टिंग फी. अपने पोर्टल के ऊपर कुछ भी प्रोडक्ट लिस्ट करना चाहो ना तो इट विल चार्ज 30% मार्जिन फॉर. तो दैट इज द लिस्टिंग. तो इक्वलाइजेशन लेवी के पूरे कॉन्टेक्स्ट के अंदर ये 4-5 सिनेरियोज हैं. And then you can make out कि क्या फॉरेन वेंडर के ऊपर इक्वल लगेगा, क्या वो मार्केटप्लेस एंटिटी के ऊपर लगेगा उस $100 के ऊपर, डॉलर वैल्यू भी सेम गुड्स के ऊपर है. और तीसरा ट्रांजैक्शन क्या हुआ, फैसिलिटेशन फी, तो क्या उसके ऊपर लगेगा या नहीं लगेगा. सो दीज आर द सिनेरियोज व्हिच आर बीइंग डिस्कस्ड नाउ.
In scenario 1, the e-commerce operator, the foreign vendor only, selling its own goods or rendering services on its own account. So the equalization levy will be applicable to the foreign vendor, as the foreign vendor itself is selling its own products and rendering its own services.
The consideration is also being received by the
Foreign vendor. So equalization levy in this case will not be applicable to the marketplace, as there is no marketplace where the foreign vendor is displaying its products, and there is also no facilitation fees over here, since this is a direct sale by the foreign vendor. Coming to the scenario 2, e-commerce operator being a marketplace entity is only facilitating online sale of goods or services or online provision of services, although the sale finally takes place on the foreign vendor's portal through a link from the marketplace to the foreign vendor's portal, and consideration is paid directly to the foreign vendor. What is happening in this scenario? The customer goes to the e-commerce operator, the marketplace entity, and on the e-commerce operator there is a link to the foreign vendor's portal, and if we click on that link, we'll directly come to the foreign vendor's portal, and sale will happen on that portal only, and the consideration is also be received or receivable by the foreign vendor only. So equalization levy will be applicable to the foreign vendor, as the sale is directly happening on the foreign vendor portal. But the equalization levy will not be applicable to the marketplace entity, since the sale contract is concluded on the foreign vendor's portal and consideration is received or receivable by the foreign vendor only. Also, the equal on of rupees $10 will not be applicable, as it is NR to NR transaction, and such cases equal is applicable only in specified circumstances, which we have read earlier. Coming to the scenario 3, e-commerce operator being a marketplace entity is facilitating online sale of goods or online provision of services. Sale is concluded on e-commerce operator's portal itself and collects the entire transaction value from customers. Foreign vendor does not own, operate, or manage a portal of its own. What is happening in this case? The e-commerce operator is displaying the products of the foreign vendor, but the consideration is received as e-commerce operator only. So the equalization levy to the foreign vendor will not be applicable, since he is not an e-commerce operator for want of ownership or digital or electronic facility or platform. But the equalization levy will be applicable to the on the marketplace entity, as consideration being received or receivable by the e-commerce operator, and the ownership of goods is no longer relevant to tax the consideration for sale of goods in the hands of the marketplace, although it is only facilitating its sale. And the EQL will not be applicable on the marketplace on the facilitation fees also, as it is an NR to NR transaction. Moving further to scenario 4, foreign vendor operates and manages the portal owned by the marketplace entity. Consideration is paid directly to the foreign vendor, who in turn pays facilitation fees to marketplace entity. So in this case, foreign vendor does not operate its portal, operates the portal of the marketplace. But the foreign vendor's consideration is received by the foreign vendor, and equal will not be applicable, however, to the marketplace, as consideration is not received by the marketplace entity. And also the equal will not be applicable in facilitation fees, as it is an NR to NR transaction. That is from foreign vendor to the marketplace entity. Next slide shows the group intranet facility. A group intranet facility refers to a private computer network within an organization that is only accessible by its authorized members or employees. It is used to facilitate communication, collaboration, and information sharing within the organization. In the context, group typically refers to a specific department or team within the organization, and intranet refers to a network of computers and servers that are connected to each other and to the internet but are not accessible by the external parties. So there are two ways in conducting the virtual business. One is through the one-to-one email, and other one is through portal, through web portal. However, one-to-one telephone or email facility or text message may not qualify as digital or electronic facility or platform, as it is not used for mass communication. The better view is that conducting business via email is not likely to be covered under the definition of e-commerce operator. However, if the business is conducted through a portal or a platform, equal may apply even on the intra-group sale of goods or services meant for captive consumption or otherwise. The following arguments may be taken to defend the levy. First, intranet does not increase the market access. There is no competition for such transactions. The internet portal is only available to the employees of the group and is not being used for customer business.
So why are we using a group internet facility? Because in the real world, all the MNC companies, there is an intranet. They have an internal portal, right? And through the internal portal, a lot of things happen. Maybe some services are rendered, maybe even goods are supplied. So for example, you should just think of that you're a part of a company, for example, ITC, right? And ITC also has a big intranet chunk wherein through that intranet servers, it is connected the entire ITC pan India, Jhabir in the offices, pan world. Wherever ITC has offices pan world, using that internet, the people of the group can contact each other, can communicate with each other, can receive some services, the services may be rendered, and all those things can happen. So, will equalization levy apply on those kind of a transaction? That's a question. Another example or another question. For example, there is a company in US. It's part of one group, right? For example, PepsiCo Inc. It's in US. It sells some goods. Right? It sells some goods to PepsiCo India, and that sale of good is for internal consumption of PepsiCo India. And entire thing happened through and a consideration is paid. जो भी उसकी value है उस हिसाब से India paid a consideration to US, and since it's the same part of a group, तो क्या ये transaction भी equal के लिए liable हो सकता है? Machine चाहिए PepsiCo India को, ठीक है, वो machine नहीं मिल रही है, but US has that machine. So US said कि I have this machine, you give me this much dollars, I'll give this machine to you. Whether such kind of transaction which is within a one organization, within a one group, the transaction is not to an external customer. तो क्या इस transaction के ऊपर भी क्या equal लग सकता है? That was the topic. And why this topic is relevant, because in real life, the MNC has faced this situation, has faced this challenge, because जिस हिसाब से e-commerce operator define किया हुआ है, e-commerce goods और services को define किया हुआ है, the answer would be yes. हाँ, सब कुछ ही covered है उसके अंदर, तो 2% लेगी दो गवर्नमेंट को इस transaction के ऊपर, and therefore this entire discussion came up कि क्या इन सब के ऊपर भी लग सकता है, जैसे वो non-resident हुआ और उसके पास कोई पोर्टल है, कोई एक प्लेटफॉर्म है जिसको वो ओन ऑपरेट या मैनेज करता है, जिसके थ्रू वो गुड्स या सर्विसेज दे रहा है, तो ये तीन कंडीशंस फुलफिल हो रही है, तो इट इज लाइक यस, इक्वलाइजेशन लेवी कैन गेट रिफ्लेक्टेड ऑन ऑल दोस आइटम्स. फिर क्वेरी है कि यार अगर मेल के थ्रू हो रहा हो तो फॉर एग्जांपल, चलो इट्स नॉट अ पोर्टल, इट्स अ सिंपल मेल वन ऑन वन, जैसे यू हैव डोमेन नेम राइट, एक जीमेल एक मेल अकाउंट है, जीमेल टू जीमेल, जीमेल वुड नॉट बी अ करेक्ट एग्जांपल, एक ग्रुप का कोई डोमेन है, फॉर एग्जांपल कोक है, कोक जो coca-cola.com उसका जो डोमेन नेम होगा उसके अंदर सब जुड़े हुए हैं, इंटरनली आपस में एक दूसरे को वो कुछ ट्रांजैक्शंस कर रहे हैं, कुछ सर्विसेज दे रहे हैं जिसके लिए वो कंसिडरेशन चार्ज कर रहे हैं, ऑल दिस इज हैपनिंग ओवर ईमेल्स या ऑल दिस इज हैपनिंग ओवर ओनली अ प्लेटफॉर्म ईमेल, या फिर वेबएक्स फोन है, या फिर कोई टेलीकॉन्फ्रेंसिंग के थ्रू सर्विसेज दी जा रही है, तो क्या इन सबके ऊपर इक्वलाइजेशन लेवी लग सकता है? And this was the precise question which was which the MNC companies were battling with after the 2020 levy. मेरे को नहीं लगता कि 2020 में लेवी आया 1 अप्रैल 2020 से, तो किसको इतना इजीली समझ आया ये लेवी कि जमा करवाना है या नहीं करवाना. एवरीवन वो कंसल्टिंग की होना चाहिए या नहीं होना चाहिए. Few companies took a conservative stand कि let's deposit equalization levy at the rate of 2%. Few companies took an aggressive stand, or maybe basis some defenses they could stand कि no, we will not deposit, let's see what the litigation comes up. And कहीं ना कहीं फिर एक view भी करके आया था. It's not written in the law or somewhere, but it's just a view that if the sale of goods in intranet case is happening, like within a group case is happening over a telephone, over email, then the position can be taken that it's not for mass communication, it is a closed communication, because जो intent है इस लेवी को कैप्चर करने, लेवी के थ्रू ट्रांजैक्शंस को कैप्चर करने का, the intent was these marketplace giants like Amazon.com, Alibaba.com, eBay, right? All these web portals को कैप्चर करने का था, क्योंकि इंडिया के साथ बिजनेस कर रहे हैं, कस्टमर भी इंडिया में लोकेटेड है, यहाँ से उनके पास पैसा जा रहा है, लेकिन इंडियन गवर्नमेंट इज नॉट गेटिंग एनी शेयर ऑफ रेवेन्यू. एंड उस इंटेंट को ध्यान में रखते हुए कोई व्यू वाज टेकन कि अगर आप इंट्रानेट विद इन द ग्रुप अगर कुछ ऐसे काइंड ऑफ परचेज या सेल हो रही है, एंड दैट इज ओनली हैपनिंग ओवर अ टेलीफोन और अ ईमेल, इट्स स्टिल अ पोजीशन कैन बी टेकन दैट it's not for mass communication, therefore equal should not apply on those kind of transactions. But of course it is litigated. लेकिन अगर यही सारी चीजें किसी पोर्टल के थ्रू हो रही है, एक उन्होंने वेब पेज पोर्टल बना रखा है, फॉर एग्जांपल इफ इंडिया हैज टू लॉग ऑर्डर onto a group entity which is located in Canada, right? And for logging that order, the employee of that group which is sitting in India logs into a web portal. वो अपना email ID डालता है, पासवर्ड डालता है, पोर्टल खुलता है, उस पोर्टल के अंदर वो एक लॉग डालता है कि I want 100 quantity of this much good, and the Canada-based entity then supplies that quantity to it. तो उसके ऊपर इक्वल लग भी सकता है, बिकॉज जो भी कंडीशंस है, मतलब टेक्निकली पढ़ो तो सब फुलफिल हो रही है कि इट इज थ्रू एन इलेक्ट्रॉनिक मीडियम, ई कॉमर्स ऑपरेटर है वो, दैट इज ओनिंग, मैनेजिंग और ऑपरेटिंग अ फैसिलिटी, इलेक्ट्रॉनिक फैसिलिटी और अ डिजिटल फैसिलिटी. प्लेटफॉर्म भी है, ई कॉमर्स सप्लाई सर्विसेज भी है, तो जब सब कुछ सेटिस्फाई हो रही है तो यू कैन नॉट एस्केप द टैक्स नेट ऑफ इक्वल, और उसके ऊपर लग भी सकता है. तो ये नेक्स्ट स्लाइड के अंदर है दैट next slide, this first paragraph, that if it is through a portal or a platform then equal may still be applied. लेकिन अगर किसी को डिफरेंसेस लेने के लिए ये तो इंट्रा ग्रुप है, इट डज नॉट इंक्रीज द मार्केट एक्सेस, कंपटीशन नहीं है इस ट्रांजैक्शन में, मैं कोई जनरल एंड कस्टमर्स के साथ कोई ना ट्रांजैक्शन कर रहा हूँ, मैं तो ग्रुप कंसर्न के साथ ही ट्रांजैक्शन कर रहा हूँ. ये जो पोर्टल है ये पूरे पब्लिक को अवेलेबल थोड़ी ना है, व्हेन आई कैन नॉट एक्सेस एनीबॉडीज इंटरनेट पोर्टल, ओनली दैट एम्प्लॉय कैन एक्सेस दैट इंटरनेट पोर्टल, and therefore all these differences you can still argue that equal is transaction can nahi lagna. So arguments are on both sides. Since the levy is very new, there is very few, मतलब एक आधे precedents होंगे इसके ऊपर, और या इस टॉपिक के ऊपर तो precedents ही नहीं होगा, and therefore time will tell us कि ऐसे kind of transaction क्या capture होंगे equal में या नहीं. A lot of companies are taking different positions, और जब Indian government income tax department will start scrutinizing these transactions अभी तो इतना पेस पे नहीं है, स्क्रूटनी नहीं होगी इन ट्रांजैक्शंस की। when they will start scrutinizing these transactions or orders issue होना शुरू होंगे, then the entire thing will start coming into the system कि यार इसके ऊपर liquid होना चाहिए था, इस गवर्नमेंट इस कंपनी ने नहीं पे किया, then the precedents will also come. It will take time. आज से बहुत टाइम लगेगा, 4-5 साल लगेंगे इसके ऊपर precedents आने में, but somehow some precedents will come up on this topic. Next slide.
Next, we'll move to the collection and recovery of equalization levy. Section 166 of Finance Act 2016, which says of the 6% withholding tax, equalization levy deducted shall be deposited to the central government up to 7th of next month. If any person fails to deduct equalization levy, then he will be liable to pay levy to the government. Also, interest at the rate of 1% per month or part of the month shall be applicable on late deposit of the levy under Section 165 and 165A. Next, under Section 166A of Finance Act 2016, the equalization levy referred to in Section 165A, which is the 2% on e-commerce operator, shall be paid by every e-commerce operator to the credit of central government for the quarter of the financial year ending within the following time limits. If it is 30th, the date of ending of quarter is 30th June, that the due date will be 7th July. If it is 30th September, the due date will be 7th October. If it is 31st December, then the due date will be 7th January. And if it is 31st March, the fourth quarter, then it will be 31st March. The due date will be 31st March only. Will take over.
So till now we have discussed the different relevant provisions of equalization levy. Now we move forward and discuss the other relevant provisions. That is basically the procedural sections. So please let's start this section 167. Section 167 is basically about the punishment of the statement. Every SSC or e-commerce operator shall within the prescribed time after the end of each financial year prepare and deliver to assessing officer or any other authority or agency authorized by the board in its behalf a statement in respect of all specified services or e-commerce supply or services as the case may be during the financial year. The statement of specified service required to be submitted in the form number 1 on or before 30th June immediately following that financial year. So basically the crux of this section is that the SSC or e-commerce operator which provide the services during the financial year, it has to submit a statement to AO in the form number 1 and the time limit is the 30th June regarding this. Moving to next slide, an SSC or e-commerce operator who has not furnished the statement within the prescribed time limit or having furnished a statement under subsection 1, if it notice any omission or wrong particular therein, it may furnish a statement or revised statement. The time limit for furnishing of revised statement is before the expiry of 2 years from the end of financial year in which the specified service was provided or e-commerce supply or service was made or provided or facilitated. Means to say कि अगर कोई भी revised statement भी अगर वो file करता है, then the time limit for filing of revised statement is the 2 years from the end of financial year in which such services is provided. Next section is section 168, processing of statement. Where a statement has been made under section 167 by the SSC or e-commerce operator, such statement shall be processed after making the adjustment of the following. The adjustment of any arithmetical error, the interest, if any, it is computed on the basis of some deductible, adjustment of some payable or amount of refund due to SSCs. The intimation shall be prepared and sent to SSC specifying the sum payable or the amount refund due to him. In the section 167, we basically send a statement regarding the specified services to AO. But what will be the process for the delivering the statement? That is basically included in section 168. The basic 4-point prescribed here under is that it should be adjusted with arithmetical error, the interest should be adjusted, any amount of refund due that should be adjusted, and intimation shall be sent to assessor. Provided that no intimation under this subsection shall be sent after the expiry of 1 year from the end of financial year in which the statement or revised statement is furnished. Next section is section 169, rectification of mistakes. With a view to rectifying any mistake apparent from the report, the assessing officer may amend any intimation issued under Section 168 within 1 year from the end of financial year in which the intimation sought to be amended and was issued. Under Section 168, we have submitted a revised statement. So in Section 169, the assessing officer may make any type of amendment if required, and the time limit for making an amendment is the 1 year from the end of financial year in which such intimation or the revised statement is issued. The assessing officer may make an amendment to any intimation under subsection 1, either suo motu or any mistake brought to his notice by an assessee or e-commerce operator, whereby any amendment to any intimation has the effect of enhancing the sum payable or reducing the refund already made. The assessing officer shall make an order specifying the sum payable by the assessee or e-commerce operator. So basically, the rectification of mistake amendment basically is done by assessing officer either by itself suo motu or any of the mistake brought to his notice by any e-com operator or other assessees. Now moving to next slide, section 170, interest on delay payment of equalization levy. Every SC or e-commerce operator who failed to credit the equalization levy or part of their is required under section 166 or section 166A to the account of central government within the period specified in that section. It shall pay simple interest at the rate of 1% of such levy for every month or part of the month by which such crediting to the text or part thereof is delayed. In the section 166, we have read that the due date is basically the due date for depositing the equalization levy is basically 7th of the next month. So now, if the person make any mistake for depositing such amount, the interest amount is 1% per month or part of the month is levied on such transactions. Section 171, penalty for failure to deduct or pay equalization levy.
So there are two kind of interest. Now, one is the due date for depositing equal 6% वाला जो equal है वो तो next month की 7th तक pay करना है. Similar to TDS, except for the month of March because equal के अंदर I think वहाँ पे 30th.
वो second section में
I think कि TDS के लिए for the month of March 30th of April is the due date to deposit it, but यहाँ पे I think ऐसे exception नहीं है. वो होता है कि मार्च का 7th of April तक ही जमा करा दो. And जो दूसरा लेगी है which is the 2% लेगी वो quarterly deposit कराना है. April में जू का 7th of July, then 7th of September. August, September का October, January and March का 31st March ही दिया हुआ है. So even that is always because जो अभी मैं एक live example deal कर रहा हूँ उसमें 31st of March तक transactions से fees नहीं होते कि ये transactions के ऊपर equal pay करना है and 31st March को payment का भी due date है नहीं pay करो और April में करो तो interest की ये भी आ जाती है. So this is a kind of onerous requirement. 31st March की लेवी 31st March तक कैसे pay होगी? There should have been some extension for giving this therefore सही नहीं.
1% interest failure to pay है या फिर delay to deduct.
Failure to deduct के लिए penalties आ जाएगी. आपने deduct ही नहीं किया 6% deduct करना था deduct ही नहीं किया या फिर deduct किया या फिर delay से deduct किया तो उसके ऊपर भी penalty है. Interest इसके ऊपर लगेगा कि काट के आपने खुद रख लिया अपने पास गवर्नमेंट को नहीं दिया ये लेट जमा करवाया मतलब प्रिसाइजली लेट जमा कराया तो उसके ऊपर इंटरेस्ट आता है. लाइक इनकम टैक्स की आप तो एडीएलसी इंटरेस्ट ना दिस इज अगर आपने विद इन द ड्यू डेट्स अगर टैक्स नहीं जमा कराया या टीडीएस नहीं जमा कराया तो इंटरेस्ट का लेना प्रोविजन टू 1 मंथ में. सिमिलरली यहां पे भी 1% पर मंथ और पार्ट ऑफ मंथ है बाय विच सच क्रेडिटिंग और पार्ट देयर ऑफ इज डिलेड तो उस पीरियड के लिए लगेगा.
Now, next section is section 171. Section 171 is penalty for failure to deduct or pay the equalization levy. An SSC or e-commerce operator who fails to deduct the whole or any part of equalization levy as required under section 166 or 166A, or having deducted the equalization levy, it fails to pay such levy to credit of the central government in accordance with the provision of subsection 2 of that section, then he is liable to pay the penalty as may be described. So what is the penalty amount is discussed here, that in case of referred section clause A, in addition to pay the levy in accordance with the provision of subsection 3 of that section, or interest, if any, in accordance with the provision of section 170, a penalty equal to amount of equalization levy referred to subsection 1 of section 165 that he failed to deduct. And in the case referred in clause B, in addition to paying the levy in accordance with the provision of subsection 2 of that section and interest in accordance with the provision of section 170, a penalty of 1,000 rupees for every day during which such failure continues. So, however, that the penalty under this clause shall not exceed the amount of equalization levy that he fails to pay. So basically, if we understand the penalty of section 177, then if the SSC fails to deduct the whole or part of the consideration in the section 166 or 166A, then penalty amount is 1%, then penalty amount is equal to amount equalization levy. But if it deducted the equalization levy, but it fails to deposit in the central government in the CG's account, then penalty amount is 1,000 rupees for every day during which such failure conducts. But the restricted amount here, the penalty is equalization levy. मतलब वो equalization levy से excess amount penalty का कभी नहीं हो सकता है. The crux of the section is that. Now we will take an example for better clarity of the section. Suppose XYZ Limited make a payment for the 3 lakhs on 30 June 2020 towards the procuring online advertisement space to a foreign company which had no place of business in India. The company remitted equalization levy on 23rd of March 2021. Calculate the interest and penalty provided by XYZ Limited. So in the case, if we consider there is delay in the payment of equalization levy, the SC has deducted the equalization levy, but it cannot deposit the same within the prescribed time. So interest is payable 1% per month or part of the month on the amount of equalization levy as per section 170. If we consider the equalization levy, then it will be 3 lakhs into 6%. That comes 18,000. And interest is always variable on equalization levy, and the amount is 1% per month or part of the month there is. So 18,000 multiple 1% and multiple 9 months. Basically, it covers part of the month also. So if you look then 30th June to 23rd of March, it covers 9 months. So the interest amount is 1620. It makes delay in the payment. So the penalty is also attracted in this case. So the penalty for non-deposition of EQL is 1,000 multiple 259 days, because he make delay in depositing such amount by 259 days. So the penalty amount is 2,59,000. But we have studied that the penalty amount cannot be exceed with the equalization levy. So here the penalty amount restricted to 18,000.
9 months or 10 months? 1% per month or part of month. 30th of जून से लेके मार्च काउंट करेंगे या फिर जुलाई से लेके मार्च काउंट करेंगे?
जुलाई.
इसमें पेपर किस काम में पीछे लॉन्ग टेल क्या लिखा है? पीरियड क्या दिया है इसमें? ये रेट है. अपन इंटरेस्ट देखेंगे ना, पेनल्टी तो वो हो गया. इंटरेस्ट के ऊपर क्या लिखा हुआ? By which such crediting of the tax or part thereof is delayed लिखा हुआ है. By which such crediting is delayed. So अगर 30th of June है तो उसका ड्यू डेट क्या है? तो इसलिए जुलाई से कंसिडर.
Now next section is section 172.
क्योंकि इसकी लैंग्वेज अलग है वहाँ पे. From the date it is deducted till the date it is paid. वो लैंग्वेज हुई भी है वहाँ पे. ये लैंग्वेज नहीं है 171 पे.
Section 172. Section 172 is about penalty for failure to furnish the statement. Where an SSC or e-commerce operator failed to furnish the statement within the prescribed time under subsection 1 or subsection 3 of the section 167, then he shall liable to pay a penalty of 100 rupees for each day during which such failure continues. Section 173. Penalty not to be imposed in certain cases. Notwithstanding anything contained in section 171 or section 172, no penalty shall be imposed for any of failure referred to in the said sections if the SSC or e-commerce operator proved to be satisfaction of the assessing officer that there was reasonable cause for the said failures. No order imposing a penalty under this chapter shall be made unless the SSC or e-commerce operator is given a reasonable opportunity of being heard. So these are basically section, right? In the certain cases, if the SSC proved that it has a reasonable cause for the such failure, then the penalty would not be levied regarding this. Now, next section is section 174, appeal to Commissioner of Income Tax appeals. An SSC or e-commerce operator aggrieved by an order imposing penalty under this chapter, it may appeal to Commissioner of Income Tax within a period of 30 days from the date of receipt of order of assessing office. An appeal under section 1, it shall be in such form and verified in such manner as may be prescribed and shall be accompanied by a fees of 1,000 rupees. When an appeal has been filed under subsection 1, the provision of section 259 to 249 to 251 of the Income Tax Act shall be applied to such appeals. So, if SSC is not satisfied with the order of assessing officer, then he may further may appeal to CIT within a period of 30 days from the receipt of the order. Next section is section 175, that appeal to appellant tribunal. An SSC or e-commerce operator aggrieved by an order made by the Commissioner of Income Tax under section 174, it may appeal to appellant tribunal against such order. The Commissioner of Income Tax may, if he offsets or any order passed by Commissioner of Income Tax under section 174, it directs the assessing officer to appeal to the appellant tribunal against such order. An appeal under subsection 1, it shall be filed within the 60 days from the date on which the order so to be appealed against it received by the assessee or e-commerce operator or by the Commissioner of Income Tax. So basically in the section 174, if the assessee is aggrieved by order of AO, then he may file appeals within the 30 days to CIT. If it not satisfied by the order of CIT, it also may appeal to appellant tribunal, and the time limit for making the further appeals is the 60 days. These are the appellant authorities, that is basically AO, then CIT Commissioner of Income Tax, then AP Appellant Tribunal.
AO is not the appellate authority, it is a judicial authority, it's an assessing officer. The heading says appellate authorities. Appellate authorities will be Commissioner of Income Tax appeals or IT, means not IT, the appellate tribunal.
Next section is section 176, punishment for false statement. If a person makes a false statement in the verification under this chapter or any rules made thereunder, he shall be punishable with as an institution of prosecution. No prosecution shall be instituted against any person for any offences under section 176 except with the previous section of the Chief Commissioner of Income Tax. It may be noted that the various provision of income tax shall also apply on the equalization levy, such as section 119, 120, 220, 227, etc. Moving to next, section 179, power to make rules. The central government may, by the notification in official gazette, it may make rules for carrying out the provision of the time within which and the form and the manner in which the statement shall be delivered under section 167, the form in which an appeal may be filed and the manner in which it is to be verified under section 174 and 175, and any other matter which is may be prescribed. It is to be noted that every rule made under this chapter shall be laid as soon as it is made before each House of Parliament for a period of 30 days for any kind of modification thereof, and that modification shall be without prejudice to the validity of anything previously done under that rule. So basically, under section 179, there is power to CG to make any kind of rules carrying regarding this, and the rule may basically prescribe the time limit, the form which may be prescribed, the manner, and the verification process and other provisions. Now, section 180, power to remove difficulties. If any difficulty arises in giving effect to the provision of this chapter, the central government, by its order published in the official gazette, not inconsistent with the provision of this chapter, it may remove the difficulties provided that no such order shall be made after the 31st March. So these are basically section covered by us in the equalization levy. So yeah, thank you.
मैं मीटिंग एंड करके क्विज चालू करूंगी कि पहले करूं?